Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new dual casting seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which the first special card that we play on our turn, we will play twice. That means that special cards are, of course, more powerful than usual. So today we'll be playing a new and improved version of our high damage monsters deck. But before we look at that deck, quick announcement that I've recently created playlists for deck guides for both all the individual seasonal events and also a master playlist with all of our deck guides. So if you're looking for the previous decks that we created, or you used one last time but you can't remember exactly how it worked, then check out those playlists for some additional help. But now let's go check out today's deck. So today we'll be playing a Monsters Arachas Swarm deck that focuses on playing tons of high damage organic cards to remove all of our opponent's units and spawn in 1-power drones that may be all the points we need to win a round. I even added in a few additional special cards in this deck to make it even more likely that you get the special cards rather than the units, which in this event aren't as important. So I'm just going to go straight into showing you the cards, because I think they'll speak for themselves in many cases. Triss is a useful unit because we can create a special card from our starting deck, and like we were saying, those are the keys to our success. Korathi Heatwave, remove the biggest card, or in some cases scenario, from our opponent's side of the board. Crimson Curse for some long-term damage, and is actually one of the better ways to put points on our side of the board, because we are definitely focusing on damaging our opponent, and less so on scoring points directly. Manticore Venom destroyed several units. Zoltan, if we play him in the melee row, will deal damage to every unit in an opposing row twice. Whispess is just a tutor, and of course, most of our key special cards are organic cards. Parasite, one of our bigger sources of damage, so one that's good against our opponent's bigger units. Alpha Werewolf the Thrive doesn't really matter much at all. It is primarily here for the immunity, which means our opponent can't directly target it. And since there's a ton of damage and a ton of removal in this event, that is really helpful. Lacerate is just a great source of damage and an organic card, so it does spawn in those drones. Predatory Dive, best at the beginning of the round when your opponent plays their first unit. If it's a big one, just destroy it immediately, and that way you don't have to sacrifice anything at all. But if you're partway through the round and you do already have units on the board, then just use a charge of your leader ability to spawn in a 1-power drone. That way you're sacrificing a 1-power drone, and that's no big deal. Arachas Venom, another good source of damage. Spores, in case your opponent gets a really tall unit that is too big for you to get rid of with your direct damage. Natural Selection, not a huge source of damage, but if your opponent has a small unit, then it's a way to get a bunch more drones out there. Bleeding Effigy, we have one of them in here just in case our opponent is doing some silly things, bringing cards back from their discard pile. But as I was saying before, there's a lot of removal in this event, so don't want to focus as much on boosting our units. It's more important to destroy our opponent's units. Then Werewolf is another immune card, making it very difficult for our opponent to remove it. Then Foglet is, of course, a Death Wish unit, so our opponent doesn't really want to get rid of it, although it's still one of our weaker cards, so we're looking at the kinds of cards we'd rather not play. Like Archespore, again, it has Death Wish, so if our opponent destroys it, then it's not the end of the world. Same with the Endrega Eggs. And the Nightwraith. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, the focus is on using our special cards to remove as many of our opponent's units as possible, and sometimes we may only need those 1-power drones, but if not, then we have some immune units that will be very difficult for our opponent to get rid of. So let's go see it in action. Alright, going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Alright then, let's get rid of our Nightwraiths. I think we can do better than that. And then we could potentially get rid of Bleeding Effigy here, although it can potentially be helpful against Nilfgaard if they try going mill. But we are going first here, and we actually don't have a great card for blue coin. That is usually when you want to play your immune units. So had I realized that, I might have kept something to play in turn 1. So I don't love it, but I guess that means we're using Oneiromancy here to get a Werewolf, and to get another Werewolf. Alright then, their Oneiromancy. We'll give them a Slave Hunter, so early indication is Assimilate. Yes, that does definitely appear to be the case. But let's go use one leader ability charge Because once we do, we can do Predatory Dive here to get rid of both of those Assimilate engines. And then they'll go Mage Torturer, which, well, the only thing they can give spying to is a drone. And for the most part, our damaging special cards here are overkill, so you know what? I think we might just make this the biggest drone the world has ever seen by going Bleeding Effigy here into Slave Hunter to boost ya, and then we'll spawn in another one, and maybe we'll boost that one this time round. Okay, now Imperial Practitioner. And they're using their leader ability here for Crimson Curse, which they can get in both rows. But it does set up a nice Manticore Venom here. Okay, now they're going Fur Cart. Into Shupe stay off. Oh, clever. So double resilience Shupes. Too bad we're going to Heatwave them. Okay, then Imperial Diplomacy. For Solano Harpy, Consuming Fur Cart, and an Ice Troll. And yes, they do have fewer units. Alright, and I don't love breaking out Crimson Curse when this round may not last that much longer, but it is one of our better pacing options. So let's go for it here. Okay, they'll go with Lydia. And spawn in some drones. So that does make for a really nice Lacerate. But before we do that, I think we prioritize converting Magic Lamp and then using Zoltan in the range row to boost all these units. Unfortunately, there's no room in our melee row, so we can't destroy those drones that way. It's got to be the boost from Zoltan. But as we're seeing here, that may not be a bad thing. They'll pass, which means we'll take the round 1 win. Okay, and we did play one more card than our opponent in round 1, so we're probably going to dry pass in round 2. We do have a lot of good special cards. We don't have any units, but bear in mind that is probably what we'll get with Oneiromancy, so that may be fine here. And let us dry pass indeed. Alright, they'll go with their Oneiromancy into a drone. Oh. Then, interesting, on a Henrietta to get our leader ability. That means they'll win round 2. Okay, we draw into Endrega Eggs. Probably going to try to swap that out. I do like Werewolf, though. That is, of course, immunity. Then Arachas Venom, also nice. So let's switch you out. And let's try to switch you out as well. Okay, Lacerate, nice. Okay, it's Necromancy. Into another Imperial Practitioner. Now, I do not remember what card that is going to give them. And since we have no units on our side, I think this is a pretty safe time to do Predatory Dive, and it gets rid of 2 of their Assimilate engines, so that seems like a decent deal to me. Then Oneiromancy. They're going to purify our drone. So kind of you. Then Aguara. Into Vivaldi Bank. Okay. Which will give them Fog. Oh no! Our drone! Okay, and most of our specials are overkill here. Although maybe we go Oneiromancy into Whispess Tribute. That way we can Parasite to remove this Imperial Diviner as it is an engine. Then we can go Natural Selection. So Parasite to get rid of you. Natural Selection has the extra damage, so we can spawn in extra drones. Then they'll go Bribery, and they'll get Triss. Then their second Bribery. Okay, Triss gave them Imperial Diplomacy. And I think that Nightwraith came from that Bribery. This Griffin actually works pretty well for them. So now let's do Arachas Venom. Alright, they're using their leader ability charges. In fact, all of their leader ability charges here. Then Tourney Joust to get some shielded drones. I love it. It's beautiful. I'm not loving the targets for our special cards here. So what if we go Werewolf now? Then they'll go Van Morlehem Hunter for the bleed. And still not loving the special cards here, but I guess we go Arachas Venom. Alright, then they will lock a drone. Whereas we will reset a drone. Alright, then their Oneiromancy into... Did they steal our Zoltan? Or did they create a copy of it? So that's certainly a decent play, and something that they probably should have saved for the very end. Then, oh. Okay. Red Haze for some drone-on-drone damage. Now let's Lacerate. They'll use Assassination on a drone. Then now let's go Oneiromancy into Triss. And with her, I think Imperial Diplomacy might be best. And they'll forfeit. So we will prove victorious. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And they'll go first. Okay, and let's swap out our Nightwraith. Ideally for something other than a Nightwraith. Okay, it's Roderick. Into Hoakim. Into a Thirsty Dame. And then they'll lock their Hoakim. Okay. Let's start with one of our werewolves. Okay, then they're gonna predictably coup de grace. First on Roderick. Which will give them Masquerade Ball. Then on Hoakim. And that'll give them a Cupbearer. Only going to be able to poison the cards that they gave us, though. Then they're using leader ability into Oneiro. Very aggressive. So now let's go Whispess Tribute. Into Predatory Dive. Which will get rid of their Stefan. And it'll also get rid of this smaller Thirsty Dame. Then they'll Kingslayer. Could this deck be more toxic? Kingslayer, so mill. And then also Masquerade Ball. Okay, well, I mean, now let's Oneiro. Into a Heatwave. For you. Then into a Spores. For you. Alright, congratulations. You have successfully removed the card that you gave us. Now let's go Manticore Venom. Remove all these guys. They'll pass. So let's do Bleeding Effigy. And basically just take your pick. I think let's make sure we get rid of Kingslayer, because they could very well look to replay that with Necromancy. And then maybe a Thirsty Dame. So that means we'll win round 1. And we do still have a throwaway card here, so maybe we'll use Archespore for that. Otherwise, this looks pretty decent. So let's use the Archespore. Alright, they'll go Cantarella, so more mill. And unfortunately, Triss was one of our better cards. They can destroy the Archespore, but it will, of course, get the other one out there. That's why we use the Archespore. So we'll give them the round 2 win, but we got a little bit of deck thinning in the process. Okay, so we drew into Zoltan. That's not bad. Nor is Lacerate. A Nightwraith, though, we can probably do better than that. And Natural Selection, maybe we'll settle for that. Okay, they'll go with their Defender first. Which at 13 power is really just asking for us to go Oneiromancy into Predatory Dive. That'll get rid of it at no cost to us. Then with our second Oneiromancy, guess we'll get an immune unit. Alright, they'll go Kahir. Now that is somewhat expected after seeing their Defender. We don't really boost, so it's not a threat at all. So let's not rush to destroy it. Instead, now might be a good time to play a Werewolf. Alright, now Glynis. Okay, now that will still get boosted, assuming they have ways to use Assimilate. Well, they won't be able to create copies of either of our immune units, but they might create copies of our drone. Nonetheless, not a bad target for Parasite here. Alright, now more Assimilate. And again, our damage is overkill here. So I think now might be a decent time to go with Crimson Curse. For a little more of a long-term setup. Alright, now they'll go with more Assimilate. And then Armor does make them a little tricky to get rid of here. But we can at least get rid of the first one if we go Natural Selection. And then we can significantly weaken the second. Alright, now it's Oneiromancy. Really? Okay. Interesting. Thinking about some card draw and, well, Duchess's Informant. We do now have the Ekimaras, which are marginally better than the drones for them to create. And as much as I want to destroy Isabel before they get the chance to use her, we are running out of space in our range row, and if we play any more organic cards, then we might accidentally spawn in a drone here, preventing us from going with Zoltan. So let's do this before we do run out of that space. Because this is looking like it is far better for us to boost rather than damage our opponents, which means Zoltan in the range row rather than the melee row. Right now it's Coup de Grace. On Duchess's Informants, again, it's gonna mean they're going for the Ekimaras. Then we'll get a Nightwraith. And they will forfeit. So we'll take the win. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And we'll go first. Alright, so I think we can have fewer units in our hand here. Let's get rid of a Nightwraith or two. And, I mean, Werewolf is not a bad alternative, because at least it has immunity, but probably do better than the Archespore. Well, might have preferred it to Endrega Eggs. And since we're on blue coin here, why don't we start with that Werewolf? Because we don't have anything to target with our special cards. We'll go Oneiromancy. Oh, into Warrit. Okay. It's gonna be Mill. Dandelion. Into Cantarella? Yes, it is. Alright, so there you go. There's Triss. And Assassination can get rid of the card that you gave us. Well done. Alright, now let's use one charge of our leader ability to get a little 1 power unit out here. That way, if we use Predatory Dive, we're just getting rid of that unit and nothing else. Alright, they'll go with Assimilate here, okay. What are you going to do? Create copies of our drone? Now, let's go Parasite here. It's a little bit overkill on the damage. Not quite for Ward, but was for the first unit. Alright then, more Assimilate. Then let's go Oneiromancy. And first we'll do Natural Selection. That is an easy target for Warith. And with the second one to get rid of you, we could go Predatory Dive. They'll just pass. Okay, we'll win round 1 in that case. Okay, and one of our keys to success in that round was that we didn't have any units for them to create copies of, so I think we want to get rid of the Endrega Eggs if we can, and Nightwraith would be the other card that I want us to get rid of here. But we do have 2 throwaway cards here, so perhaps we do play Nightwraith. Alright, they'll go Oneiromancy. Into Roderick. Then Oneiromancy round 2. Into Xavier. Which, I mean, doesn't really matter if you banish cards from our graveyard, because we weren't going to use them anyway. Then through Uma's Curse, they get Zoltan. So they did sacrifice an Oneiromancy, and they did sacrifice Uma's Curse, both of which are reasonably big cards. I think we just pass here. Okay, they'll go Squirrel. They are really focused on banishing our graveyard. But they'll win round 2. Okay, so we draw into an Archespore and Crimson Curse. Let's try getting another special card here. And Whispess Tribute is functionally a special card, because she's tutor for our organic cards. So yes, I think this looks pretty good. Alright, it's Joachim first. Okay. They did have some indication of Mill in round 1. It's weird that they're kind of going part Mill, part Assimilate. Because we did pass early in round 2, so they had every opportunity to banish our deck if they wanted to, but they focused on our graveyard instead. So I imagine they're going to Coup de Grace on Joachim to get another big unit out here, but then once they do, we can Spores both of them. So instead, let's start by going with Crimson Curse here, which we can do on both rows. Alright, there it is. Coup de Grace, Joachim. So they'll play him again. This time it's Big Johnny. And then, alright, they can double Coup de Grace, so it's Big Johnny, and then who will be... Then Morlehem Hunter. You're gonna go for the lock. Really now. Okay, so now let's Spores. They'll go Artorias Vigo into Ardfiend Cavalry. And now let's go Arachas Venom. And they'll forfeit. So we'll win. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And we'll go first. Okay, so let's try to minimize the number of units in our hand, because, of course, we played double special cards, so let's get rid of some of these guys. And I'm not the biggest fan of Bleeding Effigy, though, so might dump that. Though, we are going first, so we aren't going to have anything to target with our first turn, so having a Werewolf is not a bad idea. Maybe we get rid of the other one, though? So yeah, let's lead off with that Werewolf. Okay, they'll go Artorias Vigo. And oh, no, you didn't. So obviously, they are mill, and let us proceed to punish the mill. Oh dear. Well, I mean, we do technically have a deck that is slightly larger than your usual starting deck size, so that will make it more difficult for them to do their milling. And basically anything is overkill here with just one Kingslayer down there, but I mean, I guess we'll Predatory Dive. Okay, they'll use Necromancy, and, well, I mean, we'll get rid of the Kingslayers. I was about to Bleeding Effigy them, so that's a little annoying. But of course, these ones have Doomed, and so that means if we Natural Selection to get rid of them, then they will be gone for good. Alright, they'll go Meno. Bribery, I don't think is going to get you much here. Zoltan actually is not bad for them. That is the place to play it. And a Foglet. I mean, it does have Death Wish. But why don't we use Manticore Venom here to just remove everything? It does mean we'll get Fog out here, but it'll damage the lowest unit, and that's just a drone, so it's not a huge deal. Okay, a Squirrel. I mean, that really doesn't matter. So again, this is overkill, but I guess we Arachas Venom. Alright, it's Fur Cart. Into teleportation. Tell me now, what are you gonna teleport there, huh? No, we got rid of all of their mill tools. Now let's go with Bleeding Effigy. Banish their few bronze units that they have, and boost ourselves in the process. Okay, Artifact Compression, congratulations, it's worth 4 points. And now, once again, anything that we play is going to be overkill. I guess we'll go Triss. And we do get Attorney Joust from them, which is actually kind of nice, because we can then destroy you and use the second one to boost ourselves. And we may even want to trigger this now. Okay, well, sure. Heatwave are 5 power units. Obviously, there's nothing for Arachas Venom to target here, so we're looking to use Zoltan Scoundrel, and why don't we just get out an extra drone or two, just to make it a little bit nicer. There we go. And that is probably the last card we're going to want to play. But we'll see how they react. They'll just deliberately discard. Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them. They'll use their leader ability, which actually is reasonably effective here. That is, I don't think the best place to use it, though. I was kind of thinking you'd go melee row. It's coup de grace. Okay, they actually do have a decent target for this as well. I thought they were going to have to do it on a drone. But, let's see. With Triss, we'll get Arachas Venom, another decent one at that. However, they don't have anything else to do there, and so they forfeit. To which I say, take that, Mill. So there's a look at a high damage monsters deck for the new dual casting seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.